It is Lewis Hamilton from the lead of the Grand Prix. The front lefters blown and punctured. Max Verstappen could win the race, and Mercedes' domination looks to be over for the British Grand Prix at least. Valtteri Bottas had a puncture, Sainz had a puncture, and now race leader Lewis Hamilton on the final lap is crawling around. Verstappen is 30 seconds behind, and we're going to have the slowest race to the line in the history of Formula One. If Verstappen hadn't pitted, he would have won this Grand Prix. Now it's going to be absolutely neck and neck. Hamilton coming down towards Stowe, 3 wheels on his wagon, the front left puncture, spray and dirt being ground up from the bottom of the Mercedes. He might just hold on here. He's coming through the right-hander at Stowe corner. The car is leaning on the left front. This is Verstappen's radio.
If you get on with it.
But Hamilton locks up into Vale. He turns through the right-hander at Club, and probably at the slowest speed ever won a British Grand Prix. Hamilton across the line, takes the checkered flag, wins in Silverstone with 3 wheels. Max Verstappen is just 6 seconds away from winning the race. Somehow, Hamilton has held on to win. Charles Leclerc is going to finish in 3rd position. What an ending to a Grand Prix. The first 50 laps were pretty bad. The last 2, absolutely phenomenal. Bottas to the outside of Vettel. He's trying to get 11th place on the last lap, and he's managed to do it. No, he hasn't. Vettel holds on. Bottas goes to the inside now on the soft tyres, but again, not particularly inspired overtaking from Valtteri Bottas, so it'll be 0 points for him. Somehow, Lewis Hamilton has won the British Grand Prix in probably the most extraordinary of circumstances in one of the most unextraordinary races.
Wow, that came to life though at the end. If Verstappen hadn't have pitted to go for the fastest lap, he would have won the Grand Prix from nowhere. But he didn't. He pitted, and Hamilton somehow clings on to the win.
That's the last lap.
That's it, mate. You've done it. You've done it. Well, that's it, mate.
Wow, that was the reaction on the radio from Pete Bonington, Hamilton's race engineer, as he now can appropriately go slowly back to the pit lane, where we'll hear from him in a couple of moments here on 5 Live. But Hamilton takes the win, Verstappen in 2nd, Leclerc 3rd, 4th for Daniel Ricciardo in the end, Norris in 5th, 6th for Ocon, 7th for Pierre Gasly. Great drive from the Frenchman today. He might get my driver of the day, but download the Checker Flag podcast later on to get that officially. Alex Albon in 8th position, Lance Stroll 9th. Vettel got a point in 10th position. So Bottas, if he'd have got past him, he would have got a point. What happened at the end? No, it would have been Sainz, would it, that they managed to get past?
They all jumped past Sainz, who had his own front left tyre issues, and that would have been a point for Bottas, but he didn't make the move, and that summed up his race, really. I tell you what, when you talk about championships won by fine margins, the margin of 1 lap difference for a puncture there has saved Lewis Hamilton a huge 25 points. That could be a 50-point swing in the title if the punctures had gone the other way.
Oh,
He's a lucky boy. He's a lucky boy.
So Hamilton's lead at the top of the championship is now 30 points over Valtteri Bottas, where we were saying maybe it will extend to 12. It's now 30. It's now more than a race win. That is a huge advantage for Hamilton, a huge blow for Valtteri Bottas. He and Bottas getting punctures in the final laps of the Grand Prix. I scared you all by saying it was Hamilton, first of all, when it was Bottas, and then it was Hamilton. I didn't want to commit to it second time around. Palmer was in there like a flash. Wow, what an end to the race, Jenny.
Bottas again. Surely the lap after he's just put on a new set.
Yeah.
That's commentator's curse for you, Jack. I tell you what, I was watching Hamilton and Bottas's tyres. That's how exciting I am for the last 7 laps, and the ridge in them was getting worse and worse. You could hear the vibrations, the complaints from Bottas. Nothing from Hamilton on his radio. We all know how much Hamilton complains about his tyres at the best of times. He doesn't complain about them when they are problematic. He tried everything he could to hold on to those tyres.
that was close.
Weird failures, though, Jolyon.
The irony that every single race Lewis Hamilton's won for the last ever, there's been, my tyres are gone, my tyres are gone. And then they go, and it's just nothing. But, wow, weird.
Oh,
and it was close. And it was just for Bottas. It went through the final corner the previous lap. and it was a whole lap to get round to the pits. If it had gone just a couple of corners before, he'd have got round to the pits and still finished third. It's just the margins for this of pure luck at the end of the day. The drivers can't really, they obviously don't want a puncture. They don't know when it's about to go. It just comes down to luck of where it happens. And Hamilton, he deserved the win, clearly. He drove a great race, but he was lucky with getting round to the finish with another couple of corners and he wouldn't have won the race. And Bottas, if his puncture had happened a couple of corners before, he would have still been on the podium.
Was this just running the tyres too long into the Grand Prix?
There must be. Just the front left takes such a load with so many fast right-hand corners at Silverstone, and it must have just worn them away, and then eventually just gone through the whole tyre. I can only imagine on the front left there'll be a big inquest at Pirelli. We've got another race at this track next week with softer tyres, so they might have to do more than one pit stop.
Yeah, it was going to be a push, wasn't it? For front left was limited. We always knew that it was going to be a tough one, and because of the way that the pit stops happened, everybody came in when that safety car was around lap 13 or 14. So the push to get back home on the hard tyres was going to be so tough for everybody, and those three cars proving it was a stretch too far. Maybe when Mercedes were, rolling round, getting fastest lap and trying to beat each other, they should have just sort of held fire a little bit.
Yeah, but I think the thing that usually when we say that the tyres will last 40 laps, let's say, that means that after 40 laps the grip will go and you can't really drive round on them fast anymore. Not, they'll blow up.
Well, that is a very fair point. I'm just wondering, the track being resurfaced so many times in the last 2 years, I wonder if that's just squiffed everybody's information of what they thought might happen. This is a new tarmac, isn't it?
It still feels a little bit weird to me, Jolyon, in the context of all of this, because it wasn't, the pace dropped off massively, I've got no pace. It was the tyres blew up.
We've had it a few times at this track, though. A couple of years ago, Ferrari had big problems right at the end on the last laps. We had that big one, I think it was 2013, when all the tyres were going then. It's such a hard track on tyres. The front left always takes the biggest load. Yeah, it was strange that the pace was actually okay on both Mercedes. Sainz was starting to drop, but was still okay, and then it just went.
Let's hear from our race winner, hosted by David Coulthard, the former British Grand Prix winner himself.
Well, the Silverstone Grand Prix is one of the classic races on the calendar, and it didn't disappoint today. Max, you could have come so close to winning this Grand Prix, as it turns out, with hindsight, if you hadn't come in for that pit stop for new tyres, but you must be still very satisfied with that second place.
Yeah, I mean, it's lucky and unlucky, so yeah, I think still they were, of course, in the race too quick, and yeah, the tires at one point, they didn't look great with like 10 laps to go, so I was already on the radio like, guys, the right front doesn't look very pretty. Then of course Valtteri got a puncture, so I came onto the rail like I'm gonna back it out. Then of course they boxed me to go for the fastest lap, and then of course unfortunately Lewis got a puncture himself, but I'm very happy with second. It's a very good result for us again.
Otherwise, it was a fairly lonely race. We didn't see too much of you when you're not racing wheel to wheel. Any other notable points from the race?
No, I mean, I told my engineer to drink. Remember to drink. Stay hydrated.
We did hear that.
Stay hydrated. It's very important around here. No, but it was pretty lonely. I was just trying to manage my pace, trying to look after the tires.
Okay, we did well on that, Max. Thank you very much. Charles, well, that's as good as you could have hoped for, I think, today. The racing gods shone on you. You didn't have the sort of tyre issues we saw. Your main rivals, of course, Mercedes, both the delaminations at the end there.
Yeah, it was a very, very tricky race. As soon as I've heard that Valtteri had a tyre problem, then I slowed down quite a lot. But then I think Carlos had it a lap later, and then Lewis a lap later. So on that, we've been lucky. But apart from that, looking at us, I think we've done the best of what we could have done today. I'm very happy the way I managed the tires from the beginning to the end. Very happy with the balance of the car. So yes, the potential, the performance of the car is not where we want it to be, but today we took every opportunities, and I'm very happy about today.